Restart him.
Damn right! For we are the Cadian Eighth, the most fearsome, tenacious, and relentless bloody men and women
on a leash,
that
lads.
ever crossed
Men
the
and women.
stars.
Men and women.
Cadia, our
Men
home
and
lies scattered
women.
across the stars. But do we relent? No! For we are vengeance! And we shall bring death to any that threaten the sacred soil of the Imperium! You will give your life in the name of our Holy Emperor! Sir, yes, sir! Will you give your life in the name of all that is good and pure? In the name of our Holy Emperor? Sir, yes, sir! Then take up the Cadian standard and hold it high so that the enemy will know the name of their executioners!
You know, I heard someone say this, and I think I happen to agree. What won wars and battles throughout history was actually not any kind of speeches that were given, but instead, and I'm paraphrasing this part, I don't remember the rest. I just know that some people say it's not the speeches that win the war or the battle, but rather it's the sentiment, it's the will of the soldiers of their nation. It's the spirit of the men that are fighting. That's what determines a war or a fight that they're leading. So, in fact, you don't even really need a speech before a great battle. You just need a great sentiment. Again, a great spirit, a great morale. Even if you're losing, if you have a great sense of your mission, of your civilization and their image, you have a great sense of its future, then you will be standing tall with anything that comes your way. It doesn't really come down to a speech. And I think that's also true in American history when fighting against the Brits. I don't remember any exact speeches. Really, all it was the country and its future that you're fighting for. That's what mattered most. It was fighting for that dream. It was fighting for that image and idea of what the future would look like for what you're fighting and dying for. That's what they were sacrificing their lives on. It didn't come down to a speech. You know, a speech really is meant to goad common modern day sentiments, present day sentiments. It's to goad for an ideal that seems most, I guess you could say, most fruitful. Of course, throughout history, we've never really seen a lot of, nowadays, our envisioned ideals are completely perverted and twisted now, right? We're looking for entitlements nowadays. We're looking for, you deserve this, you deserve that, everyone wants this, everyone should have that, all this crap. What it is, it's socialism and communism. That is our public sentiment today, is socialism. And that's the problem that we're running into, is that you are entitled this, you should be coddled that, all these things. Which means, okay, but if no one's working for it, again, this is the issue with human rights versus civil liberties. When you're fighting for your human rights, then equally you're fighting for something to which you are not working for. And that's always how it works with human rights. You're not working for it. You're either demanding it, or you wish, again, demanding entitlement, or you're wishing to be coddled. In some way, you're looking for privilege, or to be passed down some kind of free allowances. And that's the huge issue with human rights. When you're fighting for civil liberty, You have to live for it, die for it. You have to earn it. You have to labor for it. It's something you work for. It's something that you place your life down for. It's something that you go out of your way and you make the utmost commitment as well as investment in order to get exactly what it is that you demand, what it is that you desire, rather than expecting it to be given to you in any way, shape, or form. And that's what we see nowadays. So, and also, I think if you look at it realistically, what is a speech to be given to a legion of men before they go on a life, possibly, a catastrophic or life-ending mission? You speak about the severity of what surrounds you, and really, you maximize the hatred for your problems. That's what you do. You maximize in the speech your hatred for your problems. You don't sit there and you don't try to inspire. You don't try to aspire. You're about to die for something that you absolutely believe in. If you're going to die for something, that means you hate it so much. You're like, I am not going to live with this dog crap. Are you with me? Are we going to take down, possibly die, fighting something that we cannot bother to be threatened by any longer, that we cannot tolerate this great evil, this great threat, whatever it is? That is truly what a speech would be. And of course, we don't see that in a lot of stories nowadays. Now, of course, Warhammer's the closest we'll ever get to that, let's face it, especially with this game that isn't too heavily woke, but this is something you will never see in a lot of modern stories, is a true speech on hatred, a true speech on contempt. Why is that? Because our modern day religion, that is what egalitarianism says, you cannot hate anything, everything must be equally loved. Even your villain, even a vile criminal of society, a menace of society, even they should be loved. And even they, you should seek out a way to accommodate them and grant them charity. Because some way, somehow, it'll come back to you, or some way, somehow, you're going to fix them, or some way, somehow, by accommodating them, which means compromising yourself. Nobody ever talks about how accommodating other people sacrifices yourself. Because why? You're compromising yourself. Nobody ever talks about how much you're going to lose in the pursuit of accommodation ethics and ultimately trying to benefit another man and thinking it'll come back to pay you. No, if you, something a lot of people don't say, if you teach a lazy man or a lame man or an undutiful man or a ignoble man, if you teach an ignoble man how to fish, he's not going to pay you back. He may not even fish for himself. What you effectively did is that you showed him a party trick that he never wishes to actually practice on his own. We act like everybody's equally virtuous, or that everyone has equal merit and value the second you show them how to do something or whatever. You grant them a bunch of entitlements and gifts, a bunch of privileges. It's like, if we just grant you all this stuff, you're going to do what we want you to do, right? You're going to do something with your life that somehow pays us back in the long run, that somehow we are going to, what do they call it? Anyways, we're going to somehow redeem you, right, in your work ethic, or we're going to redeem you in your existential value. The answer is, okay, that's the word, reform. The idea is that we will somehow reform you and you will become an effective member of the tribe, of the group, of society, if we just grant everything that we've worked for ourselves and give it to you. We give you the leg up, then you will be reformed and you will do everything that we please, right? Or something that indirectly we would please, right? In some way you do something that's good, okay? And the answer is, it doesn't work that way. Now, liberals, they like to think it works this way. And they've spoken about it working this way for many years. Many liberals have sat there and said that, many people thought that if we would legalize drugs, that it would cause a bunch of problems on society and wreak havoc and make everyone degenerates. And the answer is no. And now we know the answer is no. And now we've been proven against their claims. We've been proven of their falsehoods and their misinformation. That's how liberals speak. That's what they talk about. Well, now we know. Look at the states in America, for instance. Look wherever it is that they legalize drugs. Higher rates of crime, yes, but also more specifically, higher rates, this is what comes first, higher rates of degeneracy. You will have more homeless. You will have more losers of society. These absolute degenerate losers who sit around, they do nothing, they're good for nothing. Drug use does not promote a civil society, a society where you sit there and you trust your fellow neighbor. It also breeds distrust amongst citizens. Crime is not the only problem. If you start noticing that cleanliness is going down, if you notice that you don't trust or respect the people around yourself, then you are destroying the uniformity, the cohesion, the synergy of a population. If people are not uniform, then they will stray from one another. That will destroy your principles, your ideals, and eventually what? You end up living in an amoral society, which is a step towards what? An immoral society. Once you branch into an immoral society, what happens? That's where you get the crime. It's a very slow, degenerative process. All of it feeds into each other. It doesn't happen right away. And that's what liberals, that is what their entire argument is based upon, is that you won't notice this right away, but eventually you will. Eventually, these problems, they metastasize, and eventually they evolve into this later stage illness that then corrodes civilization and the people. Of course, that's what civilization is, but when we say civilization, the people, everything that the people work for, everything starts to fall apart. Why? Because people are no longer uniform, they no longer trust each other. If you have a military unit of men and they do not trust each other, do you think they fight better or worse? I will give you the answer. We have many examples from military, field operatives in the Navy SEALs, in the Marines, go down the list. You have many men in the military. They will talk about that when you do not trust your fellow man, you will make errors, you will gaffe, suddenly you will make these grave mistakes that will cost your fellow men their lives. It will cost them their health because they will accrue injuries. There are many bad things that will happen if you do not trust each other. You have to trust each other. Trust is not granted, it is earned. So if you do not earn that trust, which means there has to be a cohesion to the unit. If you do not earn it, then you can't demand it. So again, trust is not just granted, it is earned. It is not a privilege, it is a merit. So you have to be a cohesive unit. So as a collective, you have to agree, yes, bad things come as a result down the pipeline when we do things like drugs. And if my fellow brother is taking drugs, I don't respect him, 1, and I don't trust him, 2. So 3, I don't want to be around him, and I'm not going to invest my time, energy, effort, or I'm not going to share my energy with him. That's ultimately what it means when you don't trust somebody. Ultimately, you start to pull out and you allocate your energy elsewhere to someone else that you do trust. You don't give your energy, you don't give your life, you don't give anything to things you don't trust. If you do not trust a stock, if you don't trust an investment, you take out your money, you invest elsewhere. So why is it that we sit here and say that when you don't respect someone, you don't trust them, for some reason you're going to invest into them?
I'll be 53 soon.
Respect is not granted, it is earned. And of course, you can't fool yourself into trust either. Now, many people do. Many liberals do, but ultimately, they're given nothing. Many liberals, they will trust many directors, many authors of books. They will trust many game developers. Many liberals, like, this is something you got to understand. You got to realize when you look at it, when you look at what liberals, what they support, it's very easy. When you speak what a liberal wants to hear, they will back you up and they will financially support you. Why do you think there's so many feminist authors that are millionaires? Or if not millionaires, they make good money, okay? Regardless, it's one or the other. They have good careers or they are millionaires. Well, they must write really good stuff, right? Taylor Swift, she makes really good music, right? No, they don't. They're not good at what they do. They simply are selling to an audience that is easy to sell to because the audience is either gullible or they're easy to manipulate or they think so little for themselves that you pipe the right tune and they will follow. And it's that simple. They're easy, fast followers. Now, if you ever mess up and you ever do something that they will scorn, then they will have a lot of vitriol against you. So that's the cost for fast followers. But you will make a lot of money if you play up your purity. And that's something that Taylor Swift, a bunch of female authors, female whatever, there's a bunch of other female things outside of those two things. Musicians, politicians, personalities, go down the list. Women will worship each other, but for only as long as they can assume that there's a purity behind the idol. Once that idol loses the purity, which is so easy to do, and it only takes revealing who someone is, and of course, again, you have to be a retard not to see it. And this is the issue with women. Like, they will get with men who are legitimate criminals, and they think like, oh, this guy's a good guy. And it's like everyone looks at the guy and they're like, no, that guy's a piece of trash. And then those women will complain that the guy's beating them up and stuff, and committing domestic violence. And it's like, how are you confused? And by the way, there are legitimate stories about this. There are women, by the way, who will work for decades in domestic abuse clinics, whatever the frick those are good for. And then they will go off and marry dudes who have a history of domestic abuse. Women are retarded. Okay, let's just say that first and foremost. Second most, fast followers are idiots. By the way, historically, who are fast followers? Women, and also weak-willed men who are probably gay or something of the sort. Very effeminate men are fast and quick followers. And all these issues also align to all of it. They will scorn you the most when you lose your purity. That can be very fast, depending on the individual. They will also gaslight themselves on the reality of the world, of the situation, of who people are. They will gaslight themselves even when they see the truth right in front of their eyes. That's what you see politically with a lot of women. They'll vote for a freaking moron who will destroy them, destroy their life. Why? Because they sing the right tune. That's the only reason. It is so easy to take advantage of a freaking libtard. It's so easy. You can milk them for days for the little money that they have, or a lot of money they have, depending on their class status. By the way, liberals, they're typically either rich or very poor. The bourgeoisie, or they're the plebeians. They're one or the other. They're never in the middle. Typically, the middle is what? They're more conservative. They find themselves in the middle. They're in the balancing act of being within reality, right? They're not so far down in the gutters of society that they don't really have the ability to care for thinking for themselves, but at the same time, they're not wealthy enough that they become so privileged through wealth or whatever, or no, that's the wrong term. I mean, sometimes it is privilege, but that's based on your progeny, right? Kids of those who are wealthy. But no, more specifically, instead of privilege, they're insulated, right? When you're wealthy, you are insulated from reality in a lot of ways. So then you end up being liberal, much more possibly. But there is this weird aspect where think it's very easy, depending on the society you're living in, for a liberal to become very wealthy, right? For one, because they pipe the right tune, they'll get certain promotions, they'll get in certain roles, they can sell something to a lot of people and people will just trust them because they play up the role really well. They're good at acting and they're good at playing pretend. Of course, conservatives, they don't care about playing pretend, they don't care about acting. In fact, they detest that. Instead, what a conservative would rather is to be absolutely brutally honest and tell you exactly what they are, right? It's like, oh, you're a racist. Yeah. And they'll hate you for it. All right, we are back. Had to go grab some water. Also, I think I'm gonna be eating pretty soon here. I'm making myself some freaking crap because I'm getting hungry. Anyway, but right, like they'll sit there. The point I was making previously, I did forget an element here, is that, right, it's not, you won't play up to the purity that they wish to turn you into an idol for, or some kind of like, just a devout follower, a devout believer in their egalitarianism, whichever one it is. That's a pretty crucial difference in conservatives to liberals, is that one wishes to abide in and construct their self-identity, their ego, through a facade of a farce, a facade of purity. But then you have, of course, with conservatism, typically it's to construct one's identity through reality, through honesty, without letting go of your blemishes, and instead allowing your blemishes to be known. And honestly, to abide by oneself outside of honesty, I mean, that's just, you're imprisoning who you are. That really is what it is that you're doing. But that does go to the detriment that you're not going to get those fast followers. That's the ultimate reality. And so, like, when you look at things economically, it's very easy for liberals to make a lot of money. Again, there's a bunch of feminists right now. They're making bank, not because they're good at what they do, but just simply because they have the right ideological towing line that they pull. And so a bunch of women, right, they're trying to support other women doing dog crap, right? I mean, seriously, what woman is actually like the next Tolkien? Like what? Like freaking J.K. Rowling? Who gives a freaking crap about her? Seriously, who gives a crap about Harry Potter? Yeah, women care about it. No one else does. Men don't care about it unless they're gay. But Harry Potter is gay. It's freaking lame, and it's gay. Uh-oh. Hold up. I think we were dropping frames there. Well, that's unfortunate. But we're good. We're good right now. So, nothing of the actual issue. Anyway. Yeah, Harry Potter's gay, though. And, no one cares about it. But we know what things actually matter. And there's a reason why men's properties always end up having a contingency of women. Like, the things that women care the most about is whatever men care about. The only reason other women care about Harry Potter is, for one, feminism. That's a big reason why. And because of that feminism, there's this what do you call it? There's this tapestry of social sentiment surrounding around what J.K. Rowling made. It's not so much that women, I don't even know how much women, like, who the frick cares? Like, what class, what school you get allocated in because you wear a certain hat, and the hat tells you, oh, you go into this school and blah, blah, blah. Like, listen, the best feminist crap that's ever been made is Harry Potter, okay? The best feminist dog crap is Harry Potter. I will admit that. At least some creativity went into it, right? Compared to anything else. But You know, that's it. That's all there is. And like, again, like who actually, I have never liked Harry Potter. I never will. I just freaking hate the living daylights out of it. It's so lame. It's so gay. Now, Warhammer is cool. The Witcher is cool. Lord of the Rings, yeah, you know, I like Lord of the Rings. It's cool. Jeez Louise, reading through the books, I'm gonna be honest, it's a freaking pain for me. It's just way too many words, too much flowery definitions. I mean, Tolkien, man, he just goes on and on. It's like, my gosh, but okay. It's just like, sometimes it's like, Tolkien is describing something to such a point that you're like, what the frick are we doing here? You know, like, okay, so like, what's actually going on in the world of Middle Earth and all that, right? And when you're just reading through Tolkien's writing, you're like, holy crap, man, like, I think I get it that we're in a meadow. Now, what do we, and that's the thing, is that a lot of female writing is very descriptive, not functional. And Tolkien is weird where he makes a huge synergy between function and description in his writing. And like for me, that's where it's vexing because a lot of it is functional, but then a lot of it is also very descriptive. And he's slightly more descriptive than he is functional. So with his writing, so then you end up having a lot of descriptions for things, a little bit overly descriptive, what's going on in the world, and you're like, okay, I kind of get it. Can we like get on to something actually happening, right? Can we get down to the function of the story? So that's my only issue with Tolkien. Outside of that, everything else is pretty fine for the most part. And then yeah, stuff like Star Wars is cool, all that. But anyway, the reason why Harry Potter's done so well, feminism plus social sentiment, because women, they love social contagion. They are freaking moths to a flame whenever it comes down to social contagion. Now, and then the third reason is because women, they like witchcraft for whatever reason. And honestly, that's something that I think I need to think a little bit more about at some point. I don't know. It's very strange. Whatever it is, women have always liked witchcraft. Oh, gee, I wonder why we used to have the Salem witch trials. Gee, I wonder if there was something behind that. Oh no, it was totally illegitimate, right? Besides the fact that we know historically, women have always, for some reason, they have a weird tendency towards witchcraft. Okay, whatever. So that's the other reason why Harry Potter does really well, is because, right, women, they like that crap. I don't know what it is. It literally, they like satanic stuff. They actually do. It's very strange, and like, again, it's something I have to think more about, because I wonder if it's just biblical, if women just have a heavier leaning. I mean, they do have a natural leaning towards Satan, but I just wonder, like, okay, is there something psychological going on there that has to do with Satanism or, you know, satanic related things? And that is, of course, witchcraft does have satanic relations, especially the deeper you go into it. So all right. Anyways, those are my thoughts. And again, like, I think, again, like the way that we would actually be writing a lot of, when you have a story, people always assume that you need to inspire people and give them all these words of affirmation and like, oh, we're strong and we're brave and we're gonna go brave and beautiful. We're gonna go and we're fighting for our future, we're fighting for our kids and stuff, and like that's, I mean, sometimes the kids line works, but not always, because, you know, there's a bunch of issues with that, like, because you're always assuming, like, there's a bunch of presumptions that goes with that, like, you're speaking to an entire crowd of, like, basically people who are family making age. Well, typically, if you're speaking to an army of men, they're actually young dudes. They don't have a family, you know? So it's like they're fighting for something that they can no longer tolerate living with this thing enough that they're going to fight it. So saying something like that. But again, you look at a lot of modern day writing, it's always egalitarian. The premise is always egalitarian. It's always inspire. It's always positive emotion. It's always yip yip hooray for our freaking future or whatever, right? And like, oh, it's always based in moralism as well. Moralism, it's for a lot of egalitarians, they love to do kind of like virtues signaling-esque kind of writing, stuff like that. But it's like, again, like no one actually cares about that, and no one's actually like going to fight and die for that. Everyone's willing to sit there, and that's the point of virtue signaling, is that you're cheering on and you're supporting the cause in name only. Because it sounds nice, it sounds pretty. You're not actually going to die for this thing. When you're looking at something that someone's going to die for, it's because they hate it so much they cannot live with the alternative. And typically you're speaking to a lot of young dudes who are like, I'm not going to just continue living in a world of this dog crap. And that's typically what it is. So, and that's what I'm talking about. With a lot of modern day writing, we always think that it's the other way around from this position, which is in reality, you're fighting against something. I don't need to be inspired. You just need to hold the same sentiment as I do, the same spirit, the same will, so that we know collectively that our willpower is synergized to such an extent that every single one of us, we're each going to put down our lives because we absolutely believe in whatever it is that we're fighting for, that kind of thing. And that's what absolutely matters, is that you have a shared will, which therefore feeds into your willpower. And because of this, you will fight a war. You will fight by your brother's side. You will die for something that you believe in, a painful death even, because of what you believe in, because of a shared spirit. And as long as that spirit is shared, you will fight that war. So, and again, you don't need a crazy speech for that. All you need is that sentiment. And throughout history, that's really what it is, because you got to think about it. It's like this speech, it only matters in the moment. A speech is not going to matter after the words have been spoken. So it has to be, when you speak a speech, it has to be something that is existential. It has to be something that lives inside of you, lives inside of your fellow brother, your fellow countryman, whatever it is. Whatever that existential core is of the speech that's being made, that's what will get you to really be ingrained in what's being spoken, what's being said, whatever a captain, a major, a general has to say. It has to share that willpower. And then when the speech is existential, right, or has an existential vestige within itself, then it will live inside of the soldiers past the speech. But it has to come from a real place of shared sentiment. Yes, we all believe in the same thing. We hate the enemy so much. We're each and every single one of us, we're so committed to this fight, to this war that we are leading, and we will not let up until we win. That's how you win. You don't win by being like, oh, hip, hip, hooray. We're all so brave and beautiful, so strong. We all love the idea of our future so much. No. Unless the future is greatness, unless the future is supremacy, then supremacy beyond your enemy, beyond your present state of being, right? You are evolving your status or your state of being, your status of existence. If there's an element of that supremacy that you are fighting for, then you will, equally, you will sit there and believe in a speech being made by a general or whoever else. But it has to be an ideal that is ultimately transcending your present state of being, which means you're claiming a new state of being that is supreme beyond any other state of being that you could fathom or that you could alternatively desire.